2.1 Relations and Functions. This is in Chapter 2 on linear equations and functions. In this introductory section, we're going to talk about what is a relation, what is a function, what are domain and range, and what's an easy visual test to see if a relation is a function. Is a relation. A relation is a pairing of values. It could be a date and any particular measurement. It could be miles and number of gallons consumed. It could be height and weight. It could be a date and a weight. Lots of different things. The first thing is going to be an input that we're looking at, and then based on that input, we'll talk about an output. And another way we'll refer to this, the inputs we'll call the domain, and the outputs we'll call the range. And we've been talking about those things, and we will continue to talk about those things as X and Y. If you are worried about remembering what goes with what, there's a nice little trick here. Alphabetical order, I before O, D before R, X before Y. So anytime we see this kind of a pair, 3 is part of the domain, or is the domain of this pair, and 5 is the range. So let's look at a grouping of ordered pairs. If I have that 3, 5, and 2, 7, and 0, negative 1, then we would say that the domain is 3, 2, and 0. And sometimes you'll see those put in order, but right now we're just kind of worrying about basics. And the range is 5, 7, and negative 1. And why are we concerned about this? Well, in Algebra 2, we're going to be graphing a lot more than we did in Algebra 1, and a lot more different kinds of things. So we'll definitely still be graphing lines. That's what this whole chapter is about. In Chapter 4, we'll definitely be graphing parabolas again. But because we're going to be graphing so many different shapes that you probably haven't seen before, then we're going to have to kind of talk more in detail about them. We're going to have growth functions and rational functions. So that's just a little tidbit about those. And it looks like I drew you a whole bunch of functions. A function is a type of relation. It's a relation that each input has only one output. So if I have this example, and I'll just do it in a table, if I have 2, 3, 4, 3, 0, 4, even though there's two different y's that are the same, each x has a unique y value. So 2 only has one y value, only 3. 4 only has one y value. It happens to also be 3. But this is a function because each x has a unique y. This one will be your not a function example. If I have 2, 7, and 4, 3, and 2, negative 1, the reason this one is not a function is because of that 2 having two different values. I have a 2 with a negative 1 attached to it and a 2 with a 7 attached. So that makes it not a function. If I have an input, I can't tell which output it is. So that's not going to work. So some of my points don't really look like points, but I've got a couple different functions here, or excuse me, a couple different relations here. And I always got confused or couldn't remember, is it the x's that can't have two y's or the y's that can't have two x's? So the vertical line test really helped me. And what the vertical line test does is if it passes the vertical line test, it's a function. So if I draw a vertical line, and mine are not going to be very straight because I'm doing this fast. So if I draw a vertical line through any point, I only always hit one point. And this one, even though those two are close, right, assuming I'm drawing perfectly vertical lines along these, there I hit 2 points. So this is not a function. Notice I didn't label the axis because I don't want you to get all hung up on, you know, it being 1, 2, 3. But as if you have 2 points that are vertical from one another, I have one x value that has 2 different y values, then it's not a function. This is our recap. These are the questions I want answered. What's a relation? What's a function? What are domain and range? And what's an easy visual test to see if a relation is a function?